a very warm welcome to all of you and our esteemed panel. And Alukesh, I'm really hoping that Arijit and Bharat get into fisticuffs, and better still if Arijit or Bharat get into fisticuffs with Dr. Chandra. It will be diversity and all kinds of things at play. And yes, Generation Next, Millennials, and Generation Y. So there's a lot of things that are being talked about, enormous amount of research that is being put into this subject. Children of helicopter parents who kind of hover over and make them very, aware about their achievements, and versus another generation that really took tough calls, I'm told, according to the research that is being put out. And, they had a lot more guts, and they were risk takers and sort of built the road ahead. So how are these things playing out at work? And when I started talking to some of you over here, and it was interesting with the response I got, that some of you were blinking and looking at me to say, is there really a difference between Gen X and Gen Y? So Sunita, let me start with you, because I want an opening remark on the topic from each one of you, so that I know where each of you is coming from, and our audience gets to know what you think of the subject.
Thank you, Shamni. A very good evening to all of you. It is indeed a pleasure to travel all the way from Bangalore to be part of this panel discussion. I'm sure it's going to be interesting. So at least the way we look at it in the organizations is that the faster we're able to get them in, the faster we're able to assimilate them, and more importantly, the faster we're able to have a very collaborative working with them and the other generations. In fact, I was just telling, it's not just the Gen X, because I think we have the baby boomers as well in this in the organizations today. So it's an interplay of three generations, and the faster we're able to ensure that there's collaborative working amongst all these three generations, I'm sure it's going to be better for the organization, because the final product service that you bring to your end consumer is definitely going to be of a better kind.
Let's hear what you have to say, because for them this is a non-issue in a different sense, that their organizations doesn't have the age factor to be dealing with at all. But in your context, I'm sure there is a Gen X as working with a Gen Y. But then again, you feel it's a non-issue. So let's hear you.
So for starters, let's back up a bit. Where did the concept of baby boomers actually come from? So if you get onto Google, you search it, you get onto Wikipedia, the definition is it started off post-World War II, okay, primarily in the US. What was the influencing factor at that time? It was socio-economic impact. And that's when the jobs started coming in. And then based on that, they obviously, the way it works, 20 years, you have another generation coming, another 20 years, you have another generation coming. Does that really apply to India in the Indian context? My answer is no. The reason I wanted to bring it up is, at those time, and you and I spoke about it, when we were growing up, from an education standpoint or a choice that we would have to make of career, it would either be engineer, doctor, CA, or maybe something else at the most. Today, what do you have? You could actually pick CSR as a full-time career. You could get into filming and people would not raise eyebrows, oh my God, what are you doing? You could get into fashion, you could do a lot of things.
Ram, what's been your experience on the subject of Gen X and Gen Y? Is it a non-issue? Is it a cultural issue?
I think the real issue for us is, how do we make sure that each one of us treat each other with respect, right? There's a certain value each one of us gets, and I would really, rather than call it Gen X and Gen Y and put big buckets, I will say each one of us is unique. And how are we really catering to that person, that individual, rather than calling, say, I need a social media platform for my new guys to interact. Is the same requirement for the old guys as well, right? They might use it in a different way, right? They may not be responding to each and every message which comes in, but maybe end of the day they'll put a comment on it or talk about it in the cafeteria. So the need is exactly the same. The way it expresses itself is different.
Plays out as
yeah. So my real thing is, I don't think it's really a issue. It's there are aspirations which are different for each individual. I would not say each generation. Even within Gen Y, I have people who would like to probably what is called as traditional values, who want to follow traditional values, right? Like Doc mentioned a mix of both. There are people who still go in for arranged marriages, right? That's 60% of the staff, right? So I would say each person is unique.
You know, when people are working in organizations such as Google or Facebook, so I want every one of you to express your thought. And then how does mentoring happen? Is it peer-to-peer mentoring? How do you take care of those issues?
I think, we sometimes make it too much into the kind of what appears on the face of it as the cool environment. So to the point that Rajita raised, I think the perspectives are far deeper. I think if that continues, it doesn't matter actually the environment for them. They would join companies wherein they know that they care about the mission and they can make a difference. And if it doesn't matter whether it's a traditional company or founder-led company, I think they will make those moves.
I think I want to correct a misconception. I think it's a commonly held belief that people in the millennial generation, for the most part, or even Gen Y, are considered the selfish generation, and I think I completely rebut that notion. Only because, and I can talk about a couple of things that is indicative of the fact that they care quite a bit. If you look at when they leave companies like Google and Facebook, what do they go and do? The vast majority of folks actually go and start their own companies because they're extremely passionate about what they do, and that's what they want to do. They rarely go back to a company that is bigger. They rarely go back to a company that is, I'm sure there are a few exceptions, but for the most part, they do things that drive them, that they're passionate about, so they care. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I come back to you for this. It's a little academic in nature. By not dealing with another generation, are we depriving them of a richness of experience?
No. So they are, generations will deal that. First of all, why would you make companies responsible to only provide richness of experience? Human beings must seek them beyond companies.
No, because they live in a society which is different.
So society must give
different
them
sets
that.
of values
Companies will do what it takes to do business. So it is not today, generation after generation, good companies have built cultures and did stuff that was cool for that time. The issue is, will they move? Please remember, a deeper issue is, at least in future, people work for professions and not for companies.
I think it's fundamentally to what we've all alluded, that, end of the day, it is that purpose, it is that mastery, it is that respect. It is a culture that I can associate myself with. So whichever organization is able to give all of this to that individual, I think people will move. And I think it's healthy for society, the fact that people do move organizations.
And this is not so much of a point of view as much as a question I have for my co-panelists, which is, I've always thought that organizations which stand out, organizations which have done well and evolved at the times, are all common sense organizations. It's not really about a great theory. You do what makes sense, and then that keeps most people happy. But the problem with that is, because of tenure, the generation that has got there before you has a say. So what they've done sort of becomes right, or what they've done sort of becomes the accepted norm, and questioning that and challenging that becomes hard. So I think it's much more valuable for organizations to think about, when these conflicts arise, how are you engaging in those discussions? I'll give you a very simple example. I think I have seen
Great.
Even at Facebook, for example, I think, I've personally not dealt with it, but I've certainly heard my other colleagues across the globe in other geographies where there is a better mingling of generations, where the greatest example is whether you should show up on a particular time and leave at a particular time, or is it okay to work from home, or as long as I'm getting my stuff done, is it okay? Should my manager have a say on what my work hours should be? A classic generational issue. It has got nothing to do with buckets. I'm sure every generation at some point of time had similar examples.
Is there any question?
My question to the panelists, I felt that how to manage them, the solutions will be forthcoming, but it was not. I'm afraid to say that. It was not. We talked about like the differences. We talked about various other things.
Respecting people's views rather than looking at it as a Gen X and a Gen Y issue.
Yes, 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 yes. It was like, I was more expecting that, please, if you can really talk about few solutions, how to deal with this differences, that would be really, really helpful for us being HR practitioners.
So, for example, faced with this generation issue, the IT companies introduced a policy called Bring Your Own Device. Okay, it came from the belief that if your company only allowed something and didn't allow Samsung or didn't allow some other tablet, it's not fair. That's a response to a need. So broadly for Gen Y, I guess flexibility of schedules, opportunity to do something more than just work, some meaningful project, some social cause, some personal time. Various companies have attempted to do this 20% time of your own type of things. People, young people would like to do a little more than just the job. The other thing is, one of the more subtle things which companies don't get easily is that explaining the context of work, and almost on a daily and almost on an hourly basis, and explaining the purpose of why people have to do what they have to do, engages the attention of Gen Y better than instruction, which is mindless, which is so just do it. You will not get a Gen Y compliance. Even if you get it, it will be sheer compliance, there will be no commitment. The elder generation, a generation like me, I grew up listening to instructions, and I almost felt that I have no right to ask a question. But that's not how my daughter grows up. So when she goes to the company, she expects her manager to give her a chance to talk, give her views, and the manager is well served if he is able to attend to that need and a little be patient and explain why things are done. And my experience is if you do it, the kind of commitment you get is far higher. So some in this kind of policy area, timing, etc., flexibility, but IT companies are all going back and forth. One day Yahoo with another Yahoo. So both Yahoos are about not giving flexibility or giving flexibility. So these are small little things that will keep on happening. When any freedom is given, there will be some abuse. When there is abuse, there will be a need to correct. Then again, there will be freedom given. These are one set of issues. The more deeper issue is understand that the Gen Y is coming from a world of choices, a world where at home, they were treated with greater love, affection, freedom. And if managers don't give the same to them at the workplace, they'll feel completely miserable. So that is the difference I see. I hope that answers you.
Let's start with you, Anu. Do you have any opening thoughts on this subject?
The affordability for talent really to have access to high quality education, have access to opportunities and living environments are aplenty today as well. So to that extent, mobility is a given in today's context, and that's really what I believe. And therefore, an opening comment from me would be, really, are organizations sensitive to how do they best cater to such mobility needs for employees? How do they provide for not just careers, but also provide for high quality, living ecosystems in the environments that talents have access to go to? That really is a bigger issue that we see some organizations struggle with, Shamini. And we see a lot of organizations do that successfully as well. So that's really the opening remark.
So, Shiv, do you have any opening thoughts on the subject?
So, in any organization, we have to encounter what, as per the previous panel discussion also, the aspirations of the young workforce, not only restricted to the managers, even at a operative level, as well as your requirement for the foreseeable future at par with your business plan. So that also helps us to deal with mobility in a very planned manner. So it's a very, very what I should say, a complex subject. The entire organization has to deal with a finer tuning.
Sure. So, Gopalji, you want to have any thoughts on the subject?
Three concepts. Shamini said that people join companies but leave managers. Anu said mobility is a given. And the third concept, which I believe in, is a healthy level of attrition. So putting all these three together, yes, mobility is a given. Going back to basics in terms of what do you do with it, how do you handle it? 4-point formula: hire the best that you can, pay them as much as you can afford, give them an environment which helps them perform, and develop them to the best of your capability. That's what I feel leadership teams, managements can do, should do. After that, people will inherently be mobile. It is human nature. So the essence of my argument is do what you can. Don't worry about what you cannot control. That's my starters.
Would you have any thoughts, Karunakar?
Yeah, good evening to all of you. And I think after the wonderful, the previous panel discussion, hope we will also do some justice in terms of what you actually come forward to hear and then probably take home something. We talk about in a big way in terms of work from home. That's what we keep hearing all the time. The other side of it is in terms of the talent mobility. Maybe you don't get the local talent here, so you hire people. So there are two sides of the mobility that I would actually look at or I encounter actually. Coming to the healthcare part of it, people may be wondering that how do we really see that our doctors or our paramedics who work for us are mobile or are they working from home? I would actually put it in terms of telling that in terms of working from home is a practice which we started because of huge talent crunch that we have in the healthcare segment. The most important thing which helped us reach to that level is technology. Technology is what we have been using in terms of your teleradiology, the telemedicine networking that we have. This is actually helping in terms of getting the talent to reach to the patients who actually look at the services.
Yeah, Kumar. I mean,
interesting part of this business is we are essentially concentrated in metros, and it doesn't find much flavor with the local people. And for me, mobility is a major issue because in a city like, say, I come from Bangalore, we are also operating out of Hyderabad. Each city, as of today, I myself will require close to 500 people of this category, and almost 90% of them will have to come from different parts of India. So today, when I say I employ close to about 250 people, they come from almost 15 states. So yes, if you ask me today, have you found a solution? We are at it for the last 8 months or so. There are certain aspects we are working out. That's something I think as we go along, probably I should be able to sort of discuss this and seek advice from other sources.
sure. Lots of issues. At this point, I want to involve the audience because I'm sure they'll have their own set of questions. So, I mean, feel free to ask a question if you have. Yeah, Kumar.
Yeah, this is Kumar from Business Today here. Mr. Krishnaswamy, while inviting you, this one thing which I had learned was that though you're a startup, there is not mobility, not just from the context of geographical mobility, but also career from, from moving from a startup to, let's say, a known brand, say from Medville to Apollo or Fortis or whatever. That is also a mobility as an issue there. So as I understood was that you actually in the short time period reduced your attrition rate. So what different have you done in the past 8 months that has ensured not just the ability to look at geographical mobility, but also in terms of mobility across companies? What have you done to ensure your lower mobility?
See, in term again, it's I don't think in much way different from what any company does in terms of saying, see, once the employee comes inside, before the person walks in, it's a question of that they feel comfortable. We need to create that kind of an environment. So today, if you ask me, see, please understand one fact. My 350 employees are spread across 350 different homes. I don't see them every day. I don't bring them under one roof for me to try all my OD theories. I meet them once in a month or maybe once in 15 days, and that too, they're not the entire bunch together. During the short period what I have, basically what we try to do is, hey, listen, now you are part of now they are part of a large organization like ours. We say we are part of a large organization. It is not merely you go and think yourself as a maid. We are doing much more beyond that. There is a healthcare backup to it. Today, when a bedside caregiver goes to a house, she knows that there is a doctor behind, there is a physiotherapist behind who can support her efforts to keep her customer. Because if you look at them, they're extremely devoted to the customer because they come from that kind of a background. Today, what we tell them is, don't worry, if anything happens, there is an entire team of people to ensure that your customer is saved. I think that message is slowly sinking in. I feel that is going to make a difference. This is what we are looking at in terms of to ensure that when there is a movement happens, people now start thinking, saying, hey, fine, here is an organization which gives me that backup. Here is an organization which doesn't catch me from the roadside, but comes to my place, talks to my parents, and assures with the assurance they get me here. I think it is making a difference for us.